Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to share my learning note about creating gRPC server and client, but this time using Connect. So Connect is a relatively new RPC framework, which is created at June 1st, 2022. And this framework has three protocols that we can choose. The first one is gRPC protocols. So it supports gRPC common protocols, including streaming, trailers, and other details. Any gRPC clients in any language can call a Connect server, and Connect clients can call any gRPC server. So basically, if you are using Connect framework, your code is compatible with any common gRPC protocols. Second, it has support out of the box for gRPC web protocols used by gRPC/gRPC web without relying on a translating proxy like envoy. And finally, Connect supports its own protocol. It's a straightforward HTTP-based protocol that works over HTTP 1.1 and HTTP 2. So I'm going to try this with Go, right, alongside with Buf CLI tools. So the same company also created tools called Buf CLIs. So this is command line tools that we can use to do a lot of things surrounded Protobuf. Example like linting Protobuf, formatting the Protobuf, generating Protobufs, and many more. So we are going to create example building gRPC client and server with Connect framework by utilizing Buf CLI. That's what we are going to do in this learning note. Alright, so I'm going to run through the code that I already created. This code is a simple server and client of a greeter service. So this service can say good morning to someone. It's very simple and it's using Buf to lint, format, and generate the code. And also it uses the Connect framework, of course. So let's begin with the proto files. Grid.proto files I put under proto grid v1. So there is a reasoning why I put in this directory. It's because if you open these lint documentations, then you go to this enforce lint standards, go to rules and categories, scroll a little bit down, you can see that there is some kind of directory structures that you need to follow, where you have to follow this path. You have to store the proto files inside the version directory, and then you have to group them based on the same package and modules. Then you have to put later on the configurations in the root directory. So that's why I put here, right, to follow the rules. And inside this is just a very standard RPC. As you can see that I have a syntax proto3, package name is grid v1, and then I import validate/validate proto. So this one is a third-party plugins that we can use to generate validations for us. So if you want to check about it, you can go to this GitHub repository, buf build/proto cgan validate. So what this proto does for us is to generate code to validate incoming requests, which the rules we can define per fields that we have in the Protobuf, right? And then this is the service name, grid service. The name of grid service, the name of function that I have is good morning. It has good morning request and good morning response. And in good morning request, I have string denotes the name that we want to greet, and a set of validation rules that the minimum character should be 1 and the maximum character should be 100. And then the second field is language. Language is an enum started by unspecified and then Indonesia and Japan. And then I also apply the rules in the enum. So define only means that the enum that's sent by the client should be defined only, meaning between these three, but not in zero index. So my server will reject requests with unspecified language, even though it's specified over here. And for good morning response, it's just a simple greeting messages. So once you have this, go to proto directory over here, and you execute a command. Command is buf mod init. Once you enter this command, it will generate this YAML files like this, right? YAML file like this. Then you need to add dependencies of your modules. In this case, the dependency is proto can validate. This is your dependencies. So you need to download these basically this repository, if I can say, but to be precise, this validate package on your local, so that you can run the validations on your local, and then so that your IDE or text editor can also know where is this import path coming from. In my case, I already downloaded. And then if you're using Goland like me, you can go to Goland, go to Preferences, and then go to Language and Frameworks, and then go to Protocol Buffers. By default, you will see something like this, right? And then you unmark this, and then add a path to your validations package that you have downloaded. In my case, it is in the go src github.com protogen validate. Open that and then click OK. Then your ID should not complain anymore. Once you did that, you have to generate buf lock. This is basically a generate file to lock your dependencies based on the commit and some digest number. So to generate this, you just need to use buf update. Let me check. I'm not really sure. Yeah, buf update, buf mod update. Yeah, you need to call buf mod update. Then it will generate buf lock file for you. This is required since we are using a dependency over here. So once you have that, you go to the root directory, and then you can try to basically do linting and formatting. For example, let's say I mess up the indentations, and then you can do like this: buf format /w. This will format and rewrite the formatting results in the original files. And you can also do Buf Lint to lint your files. So if I do this, and then I already make a make file to simplify the typing. In this case, Buf Lint, make Buf Lint. So this will output the error that's saying that the language Indonesia with Japan both have the same numeric value 1, which we have to fix that, and then we have to fix that, like that. So the command is a simple cd proto, so we have to go to the proto directory first and then run buflin, and then we can also choose error format. In this case is JSON. Once you have once you ensure that your proto files is fine, then you have to create bufgen.yaml. This is a configuration files to configure the generated code. In this case, I'm using version 1. The version will be version 1 or version beta 1. Use version 1, and then let's skip the manage for now. If you go to plugins, this basically a proto C plugin that we use to generate the code. In these three plugins that I'm using, they are remote plugins. Basically, remote plugin means that the plugin that is in the remote repository. There is a local plugins means that the plugin you need to download it first. Right? In this case, I'm using buff build / protocol buffers / go to generate stubs for our enums and messages. You can omit the versions, which means that you will use the latest versions, but you can also use the specific versions. And this is actually a link, so you can try to open that in your browsers, and then you can see the plugin descriptions, and then also you can explore any other plugins available in Buf build / plugins. The second plugin is Connect Go, because we are going to generate our handler and service. Yeah, handler for the service and the clients using the Connect framework. And last but not least, this is to generate the validation code that we specify over here before, if you remember that. Right, cool. So the output here is means that where we want to output the generated code. Option is I'm using path source relative, so the generated code file path will be relative based on output file path. So the manage configurations is basically to enable an advanced configurations. In this case, I'm using Go package prefix, which will define the default Go package prefix import path for all the modules that we want to generate. So you can, with these configurations, you do not need to do like this anymore in your proto files, which is this will be replaced, the insertion of this will be replaced by this managed configurations. So your proto files will be language agnostic as much as possible. Right. So I'm using except here means that because we are going to import code for validations, so I want that plugin that we want to import, we want to use the original path of that plugin instead of using YouTube GridGen, because technically speaking, right now I do not download the plugin in my project directory. So I use I will use the original path by using exception right here. So once you generate the Buf get YAML, so you can execute this Buf build. Sorry, not that one, but Buf generate proto, this one. This will generate proto files for you. So I will remove the gen directory right now and then execute this again. Make Buf gen. It will execute Buf generate proto, and if you see that you will have three Go codes in here. The first one is gridpb.go. Inside you will see the stubs for your enums and messages. gridpb.validate.go. Inside you see all code to validate your request. Right, something like this. Cool. And then last but not least is grid v1 connect, which you will see stubs for your handler and clients. Nice. So now let's take a look on how we can create the API. In our app, grid-API, I have the main.go files. In here, I'm using simple server configurations to start the gRPC servers. So let's go run through one by one. So first, I declare a max, which is a new serve max, and I want to register a pattern and a handler by calling grid v1.connect.new grid service handler. So you will get this function from the generated code earlier. So new grid service handler will accept any things that implement this grid service handler interface and an options, and it will return a path and a handler. Right? So you can use this one to register a handler in your server. In this case, I already have over here a grid handler struct that implements the interface. So basically, when you receive a request, your request will be handled by these functions right here. Cool. So if you want to create a dummy handler because you haven't implemented, you can also use the unimplemented grid service handler, which is already provided by the generator for you. Nice. Next part is that I want to enable gRPC reflections. So when I send a request, I can see the reflections, the schema, and then the list of methods that are supported by the servers. To that, you need to import this library called github.com/bufbuild/connect gRPC reflect -go, and then you need to create a new static reflector. Reflector means that underlying logic for gRPC protobuf server reflections, and then you create a static one. So it is a simple reflector that supports a static list of services. So as an argument, you can put your service name, in this case grid v1.grid service. Again, the service name already provided by the code generator. You just need to include in here. And then you register two kind of handler, v1 and v1 alpha. Basically, v1 alpha is for the clients that is not yet supported v1 API. And then that's it. by doing these 3 lines of code, you already enabled a very simple server reflections. Next, you create your server by using HTTP server. This is your address. Then for the handler, in this case, I'm going to run HTTP to server with a default configurations, but without TLS. It is possible by using H2C library. So bottom line, this H2C library enable us to run HTTP to server without TLS. So you need to call new handler, pass the marks that you have specified earlier, and then pass the HTTP to server head. And then you run the server like usual. So I will run this over here. So the server running at localhost 88989. And then I will open the terminal. So I already specify the Buf ClI commands that we can use to call to test the API. So Buf ClI, if you already install Buf, there is another command called Buf ClI to send an API request. So you can use this one, Buf ClI dash data, and then the JSON formatted data that you want to send. So you can check the formatted data, of course, from the generated code. You can check the grid.pp.go, and then you can see this is the JSON tag that you can use, right? And then min-v for verbose output, min HTTP to prior knowledge for sending the request to HTTP to server that run over H2C. And then this is the address, and then this is the path to your handler. So if you want to know what is the path for your handler, you just need to go to gridv1 connect.go and scroll down a bit. You can see that a constant of the procedures for your API. So you just need to enter this, and then you see the response over here. Selamat pagi, right? And then this is my name. So let me replace the name with my name. So, and then let me replace the verbose one. So selamat pagi Steve. And if we choose like Japan, ohayou gozaimasu, Steve-san, right? And let's go back to our main file. In our handler, I already call a request message.validate. This will validate our incoming request. If you click that, it will call validate. Validate will basically execute all the rules of validation that we have specified in our proto files over here. So let's test that. So we said that the minimum line of names should be 1. So let's try to send an empty name, right? As you can see that it throws an error of invalid arguments. The message and the detail of the error informations. So these details doesn't come by default. You have to write the code so it's able to return the error info detail like this. So to do that, you can use this code. So first you have to check either the error return has a type of good morning request validation error. If it yes, you create a new error, connect.new error. So basically connect is the Go library for working with the connect framework. And then new error, we specify the code and then the error. And then if you remember that the Connect framework is actually compatible with any other gRPC standard library. So in this one, I'm using error details dot request field violations, which coming from the google.goland.org gen proto Google APIs RPC. In this case, I specified the fields that is invalid, and in descriptions, I put in a bad request error details, and I put the details on the error connect that we just created over here, and return the error. Right. So if you want to return a response, you just need to use connect new response and then specify the response that you want to return to the client. So that's it for demo for the server. There's a lot of things that you can do. If you go to the documentation of Connect, you can implement interceptors, you can implement observations, and many more. So let's go check the client implementations. For the client implementations, it's also straightforward. What you just need to do is to create a new client by calling new grid service client from the generic code, and then you just put the HTTP client. For this case, I just use a default one and then the base URL that where your server is running, and then you call the functions client.goodmorning, the context, and then the request. In this case, I will say the name is Alexia and the language is Indonesia, and then you just can check the error. You can check the error code if access, and then you can check the error details if you want, something like that. And then I just print the response basically. So let's run this client. So this is the output. Selamat pagi Alexia. So if I maybe I'm using unspecified number for the enum. Let's run it again. Right, you can see that I'm printing the field that violated the error, which is the language. And the reason is because value must be one of the defined values. Yeah, so that's it. The learning summary that I want to share with you. Actually, I have more complicated project that I have working on to learn about this frameworks right here, but I will push this to my repository sometimes so you can check, because in this demo that I do not share with you, I already implement some interceptors, idempotency interceptors, log interceptors, and other things. But basically, that's what I want to share with you. I hope this learning note is useful for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, stay healthy and keep learning.